Good evening, everybody. Good evening. I know you probably chilled to the bone because it's cold out there, but good evening, everybody. I'm Nicole Nziba, and I bring you greetings this Veterans Day from the Social Justice Center at Fashion Institute of Technology. And I also welcome you to From the Front Lines to Fashion, captivating stories of African American contributions to the military. This conversation features author, corporate strategist, and lecturer, Doug Melville. Come on up, Doug. Come on, do your walk. And former fashion executive, U.S. Marine Corps veteran, and entrepreneur, Quanos Mitchell. And they are in conversation with Dr. Enyitsi Reynolds. A little bit about our moderator, Dr. Reynolds. She is an adjunct professor of advertising, marketing, and communications right here at FIT, but throughout her 25-plus professional journey, Dr. Reynolds has mastered 3 careers: marketing and brand building in fashion and entertainment, business operations in several industries, and product research for DRTV. Dr. Reynolds is also a serial entrepreneur. She is a private business consultant and is the co-founder and managing partner and COO of Any Days Productions, LLC, which allows her, which allows her to work on various entertainment-focused projects. Dr. Reynolds holds an MBA and a doctorate in business administration, and I know you're going to enjoy hearing her lead this engaging conversation. But before we jump into the conversation, I'd like to welcome our panelist, Quanos Mitchell, for Veterans Day commemoration.
All right, you can applaud. So, what I want to make sure is that we take a moment, out of respect for the day, and have a moment of silence for Veterans Day. Veterans Day used to be called Armistice Day, and it was a day that was started just to commemorate all veterans, which is different from Memorial Day, which is more about those who have passed. So let's take a moment of silence, starting now. Thank you very much. I appreciate you. Having a great evening. If you have any questions, anything you want to talk about, don't hesitate, okay? Because we're here to support you. Okay? Thank you.
I'd like to take a moment to tell you a little bit about our panelists. Quanos Mitchell is a United States Marine Corps veteran. Thank you for your service. And a seasoned former international fashion executive specializing in global marketing communications and brand management. He is best known for his ability to successfully drive PR and communication strategies while directing brand partners with a deep understanding of diverse cultural influences across European markets. Formerly the Vice President of Global Marketing and Communications at Karl Lagerfeld, Mitchell managed brand licensee businesses and oversaw global advertising and communications budgets. During his tenure, he led the expansion of new brand categories for the house, including the launch of KL fragrances with Coty, Karl Lagerfeld eyewear, KL denim, and other innovative cultural collaborations featuring Mr. Lagerfeld, designed to elevate the brand's global presence. Prior to that, Mitchell launched, staffed, and directed the first European headquarters PR and communications office for Tommy Hilfiger, leading both the internal team and a network of PR agencies across 14 European markets, including the UAE. As an independent special projects agent under his professional moniker Agent Q, Mitchell builds strategic partnerships and develops integrated marketing and communication strategies for clients across both profit and nonprofit sectors. My passion is storytelling through transformational special projects, brokering powerful partnership and PR strategies that amplify visibility and engagement. Before entering the fashion industry, Mitchell served honorably in the United States Marine Corps during Operations Desert Shield and Desert Storm, achieving the rank of Sergeant E5. His military honors include the National Defense Service Medal, Good Conduct Medal, and Meritorious Unit Citation Medal. Mitchell currently serves on the board of directors of the Minority Veterans of America. A proud native of Detroit, he now resides in Miami Beach, Florida. Welcome to the panel. Doug Melville.
I don't know who said it, but I just like the energy. Is the mimosas coming?
No mimosas, I'm sorry. Later.
Mimosas.
Doug Melville, one of the most innovative and sought-out voices in diversity, equity, and inclusion, best-selling author Doug Melville has given 3 TEDx talks and has been featured prominently in the media, including PBS NewsHour, USA Today, The Washington Post, Time, The Daily Show, Forbes, and more. A fifth-generation leader, Doug Melville's family has worked under 10 different presidential administrations to advance the safety, equality, and fair treatment of all Americans. Throughout his career, he has served as the global head of diversity for a major luxury goods holding company and global top 10 creative agency. His first book, Invisible Generals, Rediscovering Family Legacy and a Quest to Honor America's First Black Generals by Simon & Schuster, debuted November 2023 as an Amazon #1 best-selling new release.
I knocked off Jada Pinkett. Remember when Jada Pinkett wouldn't leave the Today Show? I knocked her book off, and I got so many letters. People were like, yes, yes. And I was like so embarrassed, but just to share, it's funny.
No, love that. Love that. Thank you.
We love Jada Pinkett, but also good.
Thank you. So he also knocked Jada Pinkett out of the top spot. You need to add that. And has since become the subject of a PBS NewsHour Classroom Daily News lesson. To learn more, you can visit dougmelville.com, and his book is available in the back, and he will happily autograph it for you. For purchase. For purchase in the back. Thank you. And you will happily autograph.
Okay, so
Thank
sorry
you.
to jump in. Fun fact moment. Ready?
Yeah, Anita, you're going to tell the fun fact?
You didn't tell the fun fact?
We have
You-
something
why don't
that
you
we
do it
were
since
so
you have the
excited
floor?
for her to share, and she's
ahead.
not sharing the
I
best
did
part.
not.
No, you have to share. You have the floor.
Ah, okay. Fun fact. So, especially my students who are in the room, you know I'm always talking about the importance of networking. Networking will bring you full circle. So, Doug and Quanos and I all worked at Tommy Hilfiger together, as well as Pamela Holmes, who's in the audience, and forged a relationship with Constance White while we were there. So we've all known each other a very, very long time. And Nicole, who is also here, also worked at Tommy Hilfiger. So this, for us, is a family reunion.
And Tommy hires everybody. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. We actually worked for
Yes,
Tommy
we worked.
Hilfiger's brother, Andy
Andy
Hilfiger, who had created Tommy Jeans. And we all worked together in the same office on the same floor at the same time. So it was really unbelievable we are all here today. And it was 1999. To just let you know how young and svelte we are.
We
But
still are young and
no,
svelte. Come on, man. I don't know about
You're
you.
getting younger every day.
The Ozempic's kicking in.
The young people are catching up, and those of us who are slightly older are getting better.
Absolutely.
So for today's format, we were kind of talking about all talking as a panel, and we had come up with an idea. Maybe we each give, maybe I give a 5-minute monologue and share the story of the book and my family, and then Quanos gives a monologue of his story, and then we do questions together. So if everybody was okay with that, maybe I can share a quick 5-minute story. Oh,
So go ahead, and then I will start asking you
should
questions.
we let the kids in?
Oh, are they here? Yeah, before we start, please let them in. Yeah. That way, in case it gets a little loud, we don't.
I apologize, y'all. I'm so used to moderating these things, and Nitsy's like, and
Yeah,
Nitsy's
you're
like,
taking
hey, Doug.
over.
I'm like, hey
Are you
guys,
gonna
all
let me get a word in?
you know, where's the bathroom and the thing?
Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
There's some seats up here in the front also.
You know, students never want to sit in the front. Okay. So, which of you would like to begin?
I was going to share a quick 5-minute story. I'm actually going to stand, if that's okay. I have some visuals to make history stories more interesting. Just move this over here. Students, are you okay? The students that just came here, you're good? Okay, good. So today I'm just going to share a little story about my book, but really it's a story about my family. And if there's one takeaway from this story, I just want to inspire everybody here to write their own family story and own it. Because one of the things that we don't talk about enough is that in the military, if you serve as a public official or you serve as a public employee, your story is public domain. So anybody who writes it owns it, not the person who lived it. So a lot of people in this room may have someone who's a mayor or a city councilman. You may have someone who's in the military. If they serve for one day, their entire life story is public domain, and whoever writes it owns it. And I just take this to remind you that we have great family stories, but sometimes we don't really know them, and just to encourage you to find your family story and also perhaps write a book about it if you find something that's interesting. So today I'm going to share the story of the Invisible Generals. And the Invisible Generals are a father and a son. Look at these young men right here. And they were the first 2 black generals in American history. And did anyone here ever see that movie Red Tails? Red Tails, George Lucas? Okay. The other people don't have cable? Okay, cool. That was a joke. Everyone's streaming. Of course, no one has cable, Doug. 1999. But Red Tails was George Lucas's last movie before he sold his company to Disney. And it was the story of the first black fighter pilots of World War II. Now, what made this story so amazing was up until after World War II, it was against government policy for blacks to operate heavy machinery. And it was against government policy for blacks to oversee anyone who was white. So if you were black and someone was lower than you in rank, they did not have to salute you, and they could tell you what you had to do because race overrode rank. So that was really why the story of these black fighter pilots was so interesting. When I went to go see the movie, the main character in the top right there, Terrence Howard, that was the centerpiece of our family. My grandfather, General Benjamin O. Davis Jr., was the character, and when the movie came on, his name was changed, And when I asked why the name was changed, the people who created the movie shared with me that this is Hollywood, and we make amalgamations of characters to not pay the family's royalties. And I was so upset about it because we were all at this screening. And this is him with me, this is him dropping me at college, and when I was growing up and all the things. And he was you know how someone has someone in your family who like pays for everything? You know that guy, you don't really know what they do. You're like, oh, well, just call Ben. He'll like pick up college, pick up a car. This guy's just living his best life, and he would end up passing away. But then when I went to go see this movie, and he was the main star of the movie, and the names were changed to not pay the family royalty, I went home and I talked to my dad about it, and he said, well, if you want to, there's nothing to complain about. Either you're going to, do something about it. What are you going to do about it? And I said, well, I want to do my own research and see what the real story is. So I went and did the research, and I tried to figure out, how could these two guys, a father and a son, become America's first two black generals? And I went back in my family 5 generations, and there's this guy on the left, Lewis Davis. That's where my family story starts. But he was Ulysses S. Grant's babysitter in the White House. And he was the first black American that was freely allowed in and out of the White House. And when Grant got out of office, he told him, if there's anything I can do for your family, you'll always be protected. So essentially, we could live in a little bit of a very small racial bubble, and if you actually achieve something, regardless of your race, you go ahead and do it. So his son went into the Army. My dad became a judge, and then I work as a diversity officer, and this was kind of our family lineage. Now, the thing was, these two guys were the same name. One was in the Army, one was in aviation, and they would become the first two black generals. So of the 335,000 people that were in the United States military at the start of World War II, there was only 2 total black officers. And an officer just essentially means you can command somebody. You're at a certain level where you have people underneath you. They were the only 2 out of 335,000 people, and they were a father and a son. So I started to research, they worked for 10 different presidents. They were the only black advisor because America was really segregated. And I tried to see how this happened. So, Ben Sr. became an officer. His wife died during childbirth. He brought his son to a plane ride, and his son said, Daddy, I want to be a pilot. And he said, well, if you want to be a pilot, I have to train you, because the only way you'll ever be a pilot is that you have to go to West Point. So he trained his son from 7 years old every single day to do the calisthenics, eat the food, get up at 4:30, every single day. Yelled at him, all these crazy things, and said the only way you'll ever be a pilot is you have to graduate West Point. And at the time, there hadn't been a black graduated from West Point in 20 or 30 years since the Reconstruction. So he drops his son off at West Point. He gets him in, and they realize when he gets there that he's black. They didn't know because he's light-skinned. He's giving you that wave on the right. They didn't really know. They were like, yo, he could be, we don't know. But then they knew, and then they said, we can't have this. So on his first day, they made a point that they were going to silence him. They had a meeting, and they said, we've accidentally let a black cadet on. You were to treat him as if he's invisible until he drops out. And we're going to move the story along, but I just want everybody to just sit in this for 1 second. He went to college at West Point, and Q could tell you, who knows what's going on up there. 50 weeks a year for 4 years with not one human interaction. It's become something now on campus that's a legendary story. They segregated the entire campus, so he couldn't go to the study hall, he couldn't go to the library, he couldn't have a study buddy, never called on him in class, never spoke to him one time for 4 years, 50 weeks a year. So he would drop out. He ends up graduating in the top third of his class, and he would have graduated first, but they banned him from ballroom dancing, boxing, because these were partner sports. and no one would participate with him. So he got 2 Fs every year for his whole time there. 1936, he graduates from West Point. They become the only 2 black generals, and blacks can't command whites. So for 4 years, they go to the black colleges and teach them Army, War College, and things of that nature, ROTC. FDR, at the time, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, wants to get reelected, and he wants to get the black vote. So when Franklin Delano Roosevelt was going to go get reelected, at this point, 92% of every black in America voted Republican. Because Abraham Lincoln, who was a Republican, emancipated those who were enslaved. All blacks all voted Republican, and FDR wanted to get the black vote. So he said, what we have to do is we have to show that we're fair. So he brings on the dad, who's the highest black in the government, and says, how do I win the black vote? And his dad says, I know what you should do. You should allow blacks to be pilots. And they go, but why would I do that? Blacks, there's no blacks can fly. No, they're not allowed to handle heavy equipment. And he goes, my son. And his son goes down to Tuskegee, Alabama. And in 1941 is an actual picture. He becomes America's first black pilot. And he would go on to command the Tuskegee Airmen. And the 15,000 people that were in the Tuskegee Airmen, which was just his segregated military division, all were people that he talked to at those colleges for 4 years. So he named his plane by request. So on the log, it would always say by request to confuse people. He'd be like, I'm here by request. He'd be like, oh, okay. That was actually just the name of his plane. But this guy was like, on another level. And when he gets over to Italy during World War II, he realizes that the government, because there's such a lovely place to be, had segregated all the maps. So they were the only black group. So they had a map with one base on it. The whole map of the world, there was one base. So he goes, someone's going to hit us. So we're going to have all the men paint the tails red. And that's how the red tails were created. Ben Sr. would go on to retire in 1948. They would desegregate the military. And Ben Jr. would go on to be a 3-star general. And on the night before his 4th star, LBJ pulled him in, Lyndon Baines Johnson, who was the president after Kennedy, pulled him in the White House and said, there is no advantage to promoting you to a 4-star general. So even though you're scheduled to be promoted to be America's first black 4-star general, we're not going to give you the promotion. We've already put Thurgood Marshall in the Supreme Court. I already did what Martin Luther King wanted me to do. So you have to retire. So he goes to retire. And when he's retired, he creates airport security. He becomes the Secretary of Transportation. So every time you go to TSA and you go, who invented this dumb thing? Some guy that spoke to me at FIT's family. But there he is in 1971. And then in 1974, he created the 55-mile-an-hour speed limit. And in 1998, Bill Clinton gave us, or promoted him to 4-star general retroactively. And I was there. That was cool, sleeping at the White House. We lit the Christmas tree with Sammy Sosa and Mark McGuire for all the young people who remember them. And Ben would go on to pass on the 4th of July, 2002, on America's birthday. And his last request was a black tombstone overlooking all the white tombstones in death that overlooked him in life. And he was the last person allowed to do it. There's 3 black tombstones in Arlington National Cemetery, but it's cool to see. It's all white tombstones. There's 1 black tombstone on a hill right next to his dad. And in 2017, I shared the story with West Point, and the largest building, barracks building in West Point is now named after Ben Davis. And in 2019, the United States Air Force painted all the planes of the tails red with his name on it. So now every pilot in the United States learns to fly on a red tail plane. And I put it all together and I wrote a book about it. And I want to inspire you all here to really ask yourself 3 questions. Really, what is your legacy? How can you shape the future and take a story from the past and affect people today? And also, we're young and living our best life, but how can you identify those people that are your invisible generals, that random dude in the family that pays for something, that person that you don't really know what your parents do or why they're welders or whatever the case may be? Give a moment to allow the space to learn, because that could actually be the purpose that you've been searching for your whole life. Thank you so much.
Not made for short people. Okay. All right. Doug, thank you so much for sharing that story. It's positively riveting. Juanos, would you like to share your story? And then I have questions for both of you, and then we'll open to the audience.
First of all, let's give Doug a hand.
Thank you, Quano.
It's really interesting for me to see and understand and get different people's stories, because everyone's story is important and valid. And what we need to understand is how your story will resonate in the world. Mine, I have to paint a picture for you because I don't have a presentation. I'm going to paint a picture of you, of a kid from Detroit, Michigan. Detroit, Michigan, where there's a lot of minorities, where it's minority focused. But this kid started, and he was chosen to be the captain of the safety patrol in 6th grade. And then this kid went to high school, and he saw a Marine recruiter in the hall, and he said, "Hey, tell me a little bit about the Marine Corps." Now, you have to understand, this was a time, like 11th, 12th grade, when you're doing your SATs, and those sorts of things going on. In Detroit, Michigan, people were coming back. They had gone to college, but they were coming back and working at Payless shoe stores. They were coming back, and they were going and working at a gas station. So there was a different sort of attitude. So in talking to this Marine that I saw, shining bright, this Marine Corps recruiter in the hall, "Tell me about the Marine Corps." So he told me about the Marine Corps, and he told me about the 5 Ps. Positive preparation prevents poor performance. This Marine was a Marine and a man that taught me how to drive a car. He told me about getting a bank account. He told me these things that a kid from Detroit never learns. So I said, well, hey, maybe I should enlist in the Marine Corps. And so that's what I did. I enlisted in the Marine Corps. I went to boot camp back when it was 3 months, and not what it is now, 2 months. It was a time where it was hardcore. Like, it was a very mental challenge. But the thing is, these mental challenges teach us. They make us who we are and who we need to be. And through that experience of being in the Marine Corps and being in during war, going to 29 Palms, being a radio repairman, I learned things like leadership, teamwork, dedication, loyalty. Things that when you come out into the real world and you see that people don't have, you're 10 steps ahead. The thing is, this kid, now 16, 17, he loves people, He wants to make people happy. He's working in service. So what does he do? Or how does he take these skills and translate them to when he gets out of the Marine Corps? So when he comes out of the Marine Corps, after being in the Marine Corps, where can you go after the Marine Corps? Well, you can go one step up, New York City. That was the only place where he could go to say, hey, how do I take all these skills? Because you come out, you're a ball of fire, because you've been a Marine for 6 years. I was an E5, I was a sergeant, I had led platoons, I was in during a war. I had gained 5 medals of commendation. What do you do with that? You go to New York City. So when I came to New York City, I did the usual thing. I worked at a restaurant, but then I started doing my own PR. And I won't tell you this story, but I worked for Bad Boy Entertainment for a while. So I'm not going to give you the Diddy story. But while I was doing that, I actually started getting familiar with the editors in the fashion world. I started working for Todd Oldham Jeans. And then I started working in that and getting to know people. And someone came up to me and said, you know what? At Tommy Hilfiger, they need some PR people over there. It was Rondi Cooler. Remember her? So I take my little portfolio together. I run over to Tommy Hilfiger. I get in the elevator, and guess who's in the elevator? Tommy Hilfiger. He's in the elevator. He's like, what are you here for? I'm like, I'm here to see Andy Hilfiger. And he said, well, when you're done with him, you come up with me. Come and see me. So I met with Andy. I went up to see him, and then they sent me to HR. And the HR told me, yeah, there's Andy Hilfiger, there's Tommy Hilfiger, but we're HR. So where I thought I had a position, it wasn't really a position yet. I had to wait a little bit. But as I waited, I contemplated. I had just left Bad Boy Entertainment. What's going to be next for me? And I got a call. I got that call. So I started working for Andy Hilfiger with Anitzi and Mr. Doug here. And at one point, the guy who does PR in Europe came to me. Again, these opportunities coming up just from the universe and just from being who you are, which is an important lesson here. It's not about, experience. It's not about what people tell you. It's about authenticity. And I think that's what's important here. Taking those leadership skills from the Marine Corps, just being authentic, being focused on service and leadership to people. This guy came up to me and said, hey, we're going to expand in Europe. What do you think about coming to Europe? What's Europe? Again, for Americans, I just knew overseas. But what is Europe? You don't know that it's France, it's Spain, it's Italy, it's Germany. You don't know that it is different cultures, different themes, things that are important to different types of people. So I just say yes. Why not? So I get over to Europe, and the challenge with Europe is it's during the time where they were just unifying it, so they had just got the euro. But again, you're there in this 5 different cultures, and the biggest responsibility that we were up against is Tommy Hilfiger at that point was just a licensee. There was no Tommy Hilfiger. So we were responsible for launching the brand in each individual market. And that's not just the brand, it's product categories. It's men's, women's, jeans, denim. And it's also the philosophy of who Tommy Hilfiger was. And I think that was the point of my success. Because at one point when we're launching flagship stores in each market, taking the leadership and the understanding about people that I had learned from the Marine Corps, they used to have these things called event standards. And the event standard was obviously for Tommy Hilfiger, American food, hot dogs, hamburgers, cherry pie. So I'm in Germany, launching the first store on the Kudamm in Germany. And I'm doing the tasting, and I'm like, no, hot dogs, hamburgers. Like, you have to get it right. And something clicked, and I said, you know what? No, Germany, Wiener Schnitzel. It wasn't about the food. It was about the connection that the people had to the food. In Spain, we did chorizo. You know what I mean? So it's more about that. And these are skills and things that I took from the military, the leadership, the open-mindedness, the loyalty, the point of understanding how people are, the building of a team. It's about the team. The steering wheel does something, the tires do something, the engine does it, and we move forward. Holding hands, we rise together. Fast forward to they buy Karl Lagerfeld. And I'm like, these are after having successes with Tommy Hilfiger, launching the brand in Spain, Italy, France, Germany, literally hiring a network of external PR agencies, launching brand categories from women's, men's, denim, eyewear, and making sure it had a succinct message using the acronym FAME, which is Fashion, Arts, Music, and Entertainment. Everyone wants to feel sexy. Everybody wants, to have fun and be entertained. So it was sort of understanding how people were. Moving over to Karl Lagerfeld, where you're with a company that's sort of like, a cult-ish, the cult of personality, where it's about focused on one man. It's just a very interesting and different place to be. I think the challenges there were more of, there's leadership and then there's, you not fitting in with the Addams family. You know what I mean? So it's a different sort of thing. Let's just put it like that. And basically, that's pretty much my story. I think we'll lead into questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Q. Maybe we could share our roles at Tommy. I was just asking Anitzi. I don't even know what she did.
I was special events and celebrity talent manager.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I was the
So
music.
I dressed everybody.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was. Tommy and Andy had started a record label with Quincy Jones under Warner Music Group, so I was the music, like Tommy music. We were on tour with. He had sponsored the Britney Spears "Hit Me One More Time" tour, so I was on the road with Britney Spears, making sure she had the jumpers. And you know what's crazy about that story? He only paid Britney Spears. Andy said $50,000.
Yeah, I remember that because we did the thing
You-
at Macy's.
yeah.
The whole thing, yes.
That was that whole. I don't know how long it lasted
Yeah,
or
that was
anything,
that
but it was
first
We
record.
had some
$50,000.
interesting adventures on
Because
that.
she had
tour.
no songs or she was
Yeah.
She was
really
new.
brand
Yeah,
new.
she was
So,
new.
but that's how we just to make sure I knew.
And of course, I did the PR on that. The appearances at Macy's and all of
Yeah,
that. It was,
yeah.
it was a lot.
And
it
she
was a
blew
lot
up overnight.
overnight, right?
And that jumper with the one.
It was
jump
when she
rope.
was. It was when she was dressed as a
Yeah, the pink.
First,
the
the
hit me one more
time. Yes,
the
yeah.
little cheerleader.
Cheerleader,
outfit.
exactly.
Yeah. Which was scandalous at the time.
Yeah.
Okay. So I have some questions for you all. So I'm going to start with one for Doug. When you embarked upon this journey of telling your family's narrative, did you ever imagine that it would turn out the way that it has and that your family story would be so well received, or were you nervous? Was there trepidation about it?
It was very nervous. I just want to tell you all, and there was a young man I was talking to in the back earlier because he was like, I want to write a book. And I said, the funny thing about that is you really don't, it takes so long that by the time it comes out, you just don't know the timing or anything like that. But I had started researching 8 to 10 years, but little here, little there. I hadn't quit doing anything. I was working in advertising at the time, and maybe some of you remember this, but I was the person who got PepsiCo to retire Aunt Jemima. Do you guys remember when everybody got rid of Aunt Jemima? Yeah, I'm
Really? I had no
yeah. There's
idea.
no Aunt Jemima, Dougie Doug. You can, PepsiCo did not want to talk about this, but if you go on Google and type in my name with Aunt Jemima, I did get
No
one
way.
interview.
No
in.
way.
I got one
no
interview.
way. You're
in.
next to Aunt Jemima? No. You're like a little picture of you.
But after when I was working as a diversity officer and it was a new role, it was growth. Diversity was looked at as a domestic emerging market, new markets and things like Quanos was saying, like you work in these other countries, but it was also risk management and reputation management. And Aunt Jemima at that time was a risk. And when PepsiCo agreed to retire Aunt Jemima, one of their presidents, was like, Doug, we did it. And I said, could you do me a favor and call all the other food brands? So Aunt Jemima, Rastus, the guy in Cream of Wheat, Mrs. Buttersworth, Land O'Lakes, Uncle Ben were all retired at the same week. And that was kind of what I was doing. So when I saw that could happen, that was like, you could actually do anything, to myself, it was like the greatest positive reinforcement that you can do anything you want. So as I'm going through this process, I get a call to get a new job because it was 2020 and everybody was getting new jobs, new career. Job stands for just over broke. So we're going to really try to go careers, not jobs, just, throwing that out there. And no one wants a JOB. And, but I get a call from a holding company called Richemont. Does anybody here know Richemont? Has everybody ever heard of that? Okay, 2 people and 2 head nods, okay. But Richemont is the second largest luxury holding company in the world, or the largest tip of the crown luxury company. So they have 27 maisons, which is what they refer to as their brands, as we would call it here in the U.S. But Cartier, Van Cleef & Arpels are their 2 largest, Chloe, Alaïa, Net-a-Porter, other brands as well. And they asked me to come over there to be their first head of equity. And this made sure we had responsible mining, where we source everything, it was all kinds of different things. And the CEO said, if there was one thing you could do when you leave this job or in life, what do you want to do? And I said, I want to write my family story. And that job consisted of me traveling, like Quanos was saying, 40 different countries. So they sent me to 40 different countries to understand what is equity in those different markets. And when I was in those countries, I went and got Ben's diaries and went to all the bases or places he lived. So I started to see, he sat here, to try to put myself in the mind of it. And then ultimately, that helped create the book. So I didn't really know. And in Switzerland, where I moved in Geneva to work for Richemont, you're not allowed to do any interviews, any panels. You can't have LinkedIn. The Swiss are not playing. I was posting something on LinkedIn. Next day I'd be like, Doug, LinkedIn. I was like, what is going on? They're like, Doug, you can't post on LinkedIn.
It's definitely different in Europe, because even
they don't like it.
I mean, even, with the advertising, they don't advertise, like here you watch TV and you see, advertise for this pill. At the end it says, hey, may cause so-and-so, so-and-so, and all these complications. You can't even do those sorts of things in Europe. So it's sort of a different mindset in what things you can do, what's cool. And it goes from country to country. Not even, just some, when you're here, everything's the same because it's America. So, that local relevance is very important, as they say.
It's so important. So all that being said, the book comes out, I take a leave of absence from my work, and they call me at Simon & Schuster and goes, "We just booked your first interview." And I said, "Oh my gosh." And I was like, "What is it? Like, what is it? You know, like the Knights of Columbus newspaper in Connecticut?" And they were like, "Doug, The Daily Show." And I was like, "Wow, they have an internet version?" And they're like, "No, Doug, you're the guest." I could not believe
I
it.
mean, did they have a team? Did they have a team? Who is the they? Booked it.
Well,
it
Simon
your
and Schuster booked
Okay.
it. Yeah, Shida Carr. Do you
Right.
know her?
Right.
Yeah, she's amazing. She's been there for quite some time, but she booked it, and I got to the Daily Show, and I got there and the side door, and I said, "Oh, hi, how you doing today? My name's Doug." And they were like, "Of course you're Doug. You're today's guest." So I get into the back room and I go, "So how does this work? Are there like other guests or anything?" They're like, "No, one guest per show. It's you." And I'm like, "Oh man, I'd be so disappointed if I waited in line to see me. This would be horrible."
Oh my God.
But I'm just saying, it was a big deal, and that was my validation, and that was the moment, you know, where I said
it all came full
that it all
circle.
came full circle.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Juanos. So, reflecting on your journey in service, did you see any direct or indirect references to how blacks are treated in the military that may have stemmed from the original protocols that were established as a result of the pioneering efforts of the Invisible Generals, or was your experience completely different because of the shifts in time?
I think my experience was more related to the shifts in time. You have to understand, when I was in, they were doing don't ask, don't tell. So the tail hook situation had just happened. So all of these things that we think are regular protocol with the military, how they're everybody's proper, it was starting to crack. They were literally also doing, the don't ask, don't tell, and they were doing these situations where the NIS would come in and investigate people for being, gay or whatever, and people were getting kicked out. So it was a different sort of thing.
Can you explain what don't ask, don't tell is, and maybe if it was good
Don't-
before or after?
Because I was in pre don't ask, don't tell, during don't ask, don't tell, but then I wasn't there afterwards. Don't ask, don't tell means if you don't ask, we don't ask, you don't tell us. But if we ask, you tell us. And it was interesting for me because, a lot of people around me, I didn't get it because a lot of people around me were getting kicked out. And for me to say, hey, the only way they can really kick you out is if you either told them or they caught you literally in the act. And they're like, we told them. I was like, so
Like, why?
and I guess this was a Marine thing because, it was so many people, and I'm like, what's going on? And then, a true story, basically sometimes in the military, you had your own room, but then they would put somebody temporarily who was in your room, somebody temporary who was in the base coming through, or they were on assignment in transition to another base. And I had somebody come into my room, and I didn't know who this person was. They were in the rack next to me. But he started asking me about, hey, what do you think of Oprah Winfrey? And what do you, these weird sort of off questions. And me, Agent Q was ahead of the game. You know what I mean? I was like, okay.
What do you think of Oprah Winfrey?
Yeah, it was weird. It was like weird questions. And I'm in the Marine Corps, and I'm like, okay, this is somebody who's transitioning to another base. I felt like this was a setup and a plot for the don't ask, don't tell. And this person was planted in my room to not but to get into my head. I'm too smart for that. I'm too sophisticated for that sort of thing. So it was one of those things where they literally doing witch hunts with people. It was crazy. Aside from that, I think that there was a couple of times in the military because it's so based on teamwork, team effort. So whoever you're stationed with, the people around you, they're your family. But even me, if I was the only black one there, it was very like, okay, so we're going golfing, and you can carry the clubs. You know what I mean? Like subtle stuff like that. And then I wouldn't go, you know what I mean? Because I don't, necessarily play those games. That said, I think that, it was important for me to experience those things, and it kind of buffered me because in the Marine Corps, you have light-skinned Marine, dark-skinned Marine. You have, no offense, have female Marines, male Marines, but we're all the same. We're all, we're equal. No one's, better than anyone else. And I think because I knew that and I was taught that, coming out of it, being an African-American person, leading store openings, leading product launches, hiring PR agencies, it was a big challenge because there would be times I would be like in Germany, meeting with GQ magazine. You're meeting with the publisher and the head of advertising. And they are referring to the person sitting next to me, not realizing I'm the vice president. So I have to stop the meeting and bring everybody in the hall. I'm like, you need to let them know who the boss is, because they didn't see me in their eyes as that person.
I just want to share a story. When I moved over to Switzerland, I got a lot of stories, but one of the things that they would do is if there's a woman or person of color or Middle Eastern person and you're on a Zoom, when the person says hello, everybody turns their camera off. They do it all the time. It is savage AF. And I have been on calls time and time again where, particularly black women are like an extra camera shut off. Like, you moving too fast. Like, let's go slow. But they shut all the cameras off, and the second she stops talking, everybody puts their camera on. And it happens. I mean, it is, life is
I think the thing
different around the world, but this is a whole thing. But
that leads into my next question. So you're in the military and you're going through all of this.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say your most challenging experience was? Because you just talked about having someone put into your room and going through this feeling of, am I being set up?
Mm-hmm.
During a very turbulent time. Was that your most challenging experience?
I mean, I would have to kind of dial it back. That wasn't my most challenging experience, but I think that was what was going on. And because I had learned I was from Detroit. I learned to be streetwise. I understand people. Now we call it reading the room. You know what I mean? So there were certain things about me, of skills that I had acquired, so I'm ready for that one. I think one of the most challenging experiences that I still remember was, you go through boot camp. And boot camp is a really harrowing experience because literally, for me, I'm coming from Detroit. I had never been to the ocean. I never swam. We did humps, which are literally you're carrying your weapons, you're carrying your backpack. But we were in Camp Pendleton, and we go through these mountains, and you see flocks of, buffalo or sheep, and you're like, oh my God, you know what I mean? You're seeing these things that you never saw before, So your mind is literally stretched in that way, and also physically, your mind is stretched. But by the end of boot camp, when we are going through graduation, they have this thing called Eyes Right. And literally, it's the whole platoon marching. Everybody's set up on one side. These are the people that have come to see you for graduation. And Eyes Right is presenting your weapon and turning right so that everybody can congratulate you. They can clap for you. And the people, who are there to celebrate you are there. There was no one there for me. There's no family. There was no one there for me. So in that moment, it affected me two ways. One, there was no one there for me, but you know what? I was there for me. And I had to learn that I had to be my everything in the world by myself right then and there. So when you speak of challenging moments, that's the biggest challenge.
I'm so sorry, I never knew that.
Yeah. Yeah, but it was a point of liberation. It wasn't a point to keep me down. Given that was boot camp, everything that I had learned after that, the leadership, the teamwork, just the effort from being in the Marine Corps, it was something that was more of a springboard rather than, something that took away. So yeah.
But that's part of the beauty of growth and learning, because you were able to take that moment and make it work for you.
Yeah, I mean, it took a while. It's like, no one's here for me to, But then it was like, you know what? Yes, no one's there for you. You're there for you. Period.
It's a shock, and I think everyone in this room is going to have a no one's there for you moment.
Absolutely.
And the thing is, the reality is, once you get out of university, nobody cares. When you're in university, you have a little bit of a like, da-da-da.
But then should that mean you're responsible for you? And that's one of the messages. When you're in the military and you realize it's a system where the military literally is supposed to be in service to civilians. We're here to make sure people are safe. We're here to fight wars. You're in service to people. But at the end of the day, you're in service to yourself. All those leadership, qualities, whether it's getting up in the morning, going to the gym, whether it's like saving for a rainy day, those disciplines are your responsibility.
Absolutely. You have to be your biggest cheerleader, and you have to own that sense of responsibility within and for yourself.
Right. I think the thing in the fashion industry, it made me a little insensitive to the creative side. I remember times, where I'm more strategic. I think that's what it taught me, to be strategic. And, if I need to save money for, a vacation, I need to strategically plan it out. I remember I would write a plan for everything. So it took away from the creativity, and there would be times where I would miss that point, especially with Karl Lagerfeld. You know, one time it was after a show, a couture show, you know what I mean? I'm just like, let's get everybody sat, let's get everybody in the room. And he comes to me and he says, what did you think of the show? He said, wasn't it fabulous? And I'm like, the hair was great. He was like, hair? Darling, we don't do hair, we do fashion. And to me, it didn't register because I'm strategic. I wanted my editors there, I wanted my press, again. So there are pluses and there are minuses to it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Darling, we don't do hair. Imagine Karl Lagerfeld, and I heard about it for weeks afterwards. We don't do hair, from everybody. I was like, I know, but I mean, that's just what came out because I'm thinking about press. I'm thinking about, editors, seating. I'm thinking about the strategic parts,
Different focus, absolutely.
Yes, but that's from the military thing, you know what I mean? It wasn't creative at all, so, yeah.
Doug, if you hadn't seen the screening of Red Tails, do you think you would have embarked upon this mission to learn about your family's history?
No, and that was the one saving grace. And sometimes you have these moments in life where, you run into something or somebody. But if I never saw that movie, or if they never changed the name, I would have never even thought anything else about it. I went to the movie premiere for the party. Let me just, let's keep it
let's
real.
party, right.
This
That's
party
right, let's
was unbelievable.
Right.
And all the people were there and the whole thing. So I was going really just for the party. There was
Right.
no Agent Q strategic mission.
Yeah,
Except how much clean cow do we have?
Right.
Because I don't want to run out.
Right.
That was
There
what
we
I
go.
was doing. And so that wouldn't have happened. But that's what I'm saying. You never know what changes your life. And I'm so
Yeah.
happy it did because...
I mean, and that Karl Lagerfeld moment really changed because after that
It's exactly.
I was all about fashion. But I mean, I don't know, the hair looked great, dude. It like wrecked him, like he was wrecked. Like, oops.
But the thing about these funny things is, if it didn't happen then, another thing would have happened later. Like you get roped in at some point because you learn from each thing, and then next time you are maybe more
Again,
cautious.
I mean, it's more of reading the room, because was it like, did I slip or was I keeping it 100? You know what I mean?
No one wants you to keep it 100.
And then that's kind of the
Very
Let me ju-
rarely. Very rarely.
Right.
Listen, nobody wants you to keep it 100, okay? They want you to keep it 52 plus tax.
I need
No
that.
100, okay? That's not at all.
Yes, sir. Understood.
That was just
47,
too obvious.
Understood.
Yeah.
Understood.
When
There was
you
But again, it's fashion. It's that image moment. It's about keeping that aesthetic. And to me, it was just, dude. I mean, yeah, the hair was great, dude.
But I want to actually, for a learning here, I want to just flip off this. When you work in advertising, there's a statement that says, culture eats strategy for lunch. And basically what that says is you can have the best strategy ever made, but if it goes against the cultural norms, it's just not going to move. Sir, you want to come up front? Let's give him a round of applause. Yes. All right. Yeah, let's go. Let's go. Good. That wasn't planned, by the way. He doesn't even know what's going on. But I did want to say this culture eats strategy for lunch. You could have the best strategy in the world, like he's saying, but once it goes against the culture, you're saying, or not you specifically, but you're saying, I want to keep it real. This is the way we should do it. But
I mean, I
in
think
my world, the culture overrides. Oh, we have a question. The culture overrides the strategy.
45 years of advertising. We say it a little differently. It's not creative unless it sells. Which is the standard.
No, that's definitely true. I mean, that's also true. I mean, many things are true at the same time, but the higher you get up at these corporations, it is very hard, these are not Titanic, but kind of as a metaphor, the rudder only moves the ship like this. So sometimes when you're lower or in the middle or in different departments or in satellite offices, you think the ship's always moving. But when you're up there with the captain, it is not really moving that much.
I think also the context too. I was brought over from Tommy Hilfiger, who had purchased Karl Lagerfeld, and it was about, okay, you need to go over there and get the house in order because they're spending too much money. We don't know what they're doing. So I'm coming over there with the head of they need that strategy person to keep it, real. So I'm just in that strategy mode with it. This is Karl Lagerfeld. It's like, like I said, cult of personality. Like, this man would come out at a party and there would be a tray there with 1 cup of Diet Pepsi in it. He would drink it all and sit it back there. So you have to think of it in the context of what you're dealing with, because it's not. I can never compete with that, but I still had to be accountable to the Tommy Hilfiger people for the strategy part. So do you totally flip? Or
No,
do you
this is the this is what makes these jobs so
Yeah.
hard.
But at that
because-
time,
Really,
that was
it's
not
really
the right thing to say to him.
navigating on a fine line
Right.
of
Right.
how do I keep both sides of the fence happy, and it's very, very challenging and very difficult. Okay, so now I have a question for both of you.
Okay.
We see the deplorable treatment that many veterans face when they come home from the military, from service in the military. And for all of you who are in the audience who have served, thank you for your service. And could you just by a show of hands let us know if you or someone in your family have served?
Okay, great.
Wow.
Yes, let's go.
Oh, that's good. Great.
This
Thank
is
you
great. Can we
all.
all take a photo after? I'd love to.
Great.
Thank you so much.
Truly. So we see a lot of what is happening. We see veterans who are on the street. They are facing housing insecurity, food insecurity, healthcare insecurity. We see all of these things, and many of them are combating physical or mental issues and dealing with PTSD. And it's a very, very disheartening thing to see. So what are your thoughts about those scenarios, both as a veteran and as someone whose family has done so much for the military, for the country?
Well, one of the things, my big intention, and I'm working with a lot of intentionality, is to lean into the veteran space, because I happen to think that they should have discounts for veterans. There should be a lot more support and
Me
care
too.
and
Me
nurturing for veterans or people who have sacrificed and they've served this country. It's just a necessity. And for me, given all the experience that I have in the communications and just life, I think it's important that I dedicate myself to that. So that's kind of, where I am with it. It's a no-brainer for me.
For me, I've just taken our family name since the book and tried to, if it helps, allow different places. So since I wrote the book, 16 schools were renamed: Benjamin O. Davis, Compton, Houston, Cleveland, Cincinnati. We just opened the Benjamin Davis Veteran Center in Wyoming. So I actually am trying to do the best I can with what I know how to do best, and that is use the influence of this story to assist, maybe go over the line, maybe get a little bit more public support.
And we're going to be working together, I can tell.
Yeah.
You and
yeah.
I.
I'm going to hire Q.
Yes. Thank you.
Yep.
Done deal.
And that 1999 Tommy Hilfiger salary.
And I know that we're short on time, and I do want to open things up.
Yeah, we'd love to
the
take
audience.
questions.
So
and,
does
the
anybody
thing.
have a question?
Can I just say there's one saying that my family has used that came out in all their diaries, and I just want to share it. You have to use the system to diffuse the system. Their philosophy ever since the beginning was, if you are not in the room, you can't change anything. So to your point of read the room, to the patience, to the strategy and the culture, to all the different things, you have to stay in the room if you want something to evolve. And also working in Switzerland, never use the word change because it's jarring to a lot of people, especially in luxury. Use the word evolve. And also, luxury and fashion are two different things. If you ever want to work in luxury, don't say you worked in fashion. I just want to share that too, because especially in Europe, people are really serious about it. And in luxury people, can I tell you guys a secret? Luxury people never hire anybody who worked at Bloomingdale's.
No. Okay, so.
It's like a weird brand that people think is luxury, but if it's on your resume, Bloomingdale's is not good.
Right. Not good. Okay, so I'm going to go old school Marine Corps.
I don't know why.
I'm going to go
I didn't
old
make the
school.
rule.
Old school Marine Corps jarhead on you and give you one of the quotes from us.
Okay, yeah,
That's
yeah,
a life
give me the
learning.
jarhead
You ready?
quote.
Everyone has an opinion, and most of them. Excuses are like buttholes. Everybody has an opinion, and most of them stink.
Or
And
that.
with that, let's take a question from the audience.
What made you?
No, we need the mic for the cameras.
Nicole.
Hello, hello. Hello. All right. What made you lead up to the decision to leave the Corps?
Well, I think the Marine Corps, they were doing, at the point that I left, it was after they started doing Don't Ask, Don't Tell, but then they started doing early outs. And they, because I was in.
What is early outs? Just for
Well, basically, when you're in the Marine Corps and if you have certain MOSs, so my MOS, which is the job that you do, was microcomputer repairman. So it's really technical. I had to go to school for like a year. And it's not like you're a basic grunt where you're just shooting. It's a communications job basically with satellites. So they give you bonuses for re-enlisting. But if they let you out early, they don't have to give you a bonus every time you re-enlist. So they let me out early, but if I stayed in, they would have to have given me a bonus. So they let me out early. So I did 6 years rather than 8, for each enlistment.
More questions?
Any questions? Thank you
I
for
have
your
more
question.
questions for you.
Hi, my question was, what was your family's reaction after they seen the impact that your book made when it came out?
Funny enough, my dad did not want me to write the book. He was so indoctrinated that our family had to be invisible. So the deal that they had made was when Grant had said you guys can go through the system was you have to live like you're invisible. So you have to get the worst place to live, the farthest place. Every room you walk in, you have to be the last one to walk in. If they run out of food, you don't eat. If there's no chairs to sit, you don't sit. They went their entire careers, even when they were generals, put so far in the back. And my dad was there, and he said, Doug, if we want to live and be safe. And
Well,
get
what
all
was that?
these
What
great
do you
things-
think that was a sign of the times, a sign of being an African
It
American?
was a sign of the it was a sign of the times because he was out of the military in 1970. So
Right.
they were in the military 1901 to 1970. They didn't want. It was just if you want to live and you want to have a great family and you
It
want
was
to
a
have
very
some peace.
don't rock the boat mentality.
Yeah, it was like you have to be invisible, and that was why the
Be seen
title.
and not heard.
Wow.
So when I told my dad I wanted to write a book, he was like, "They're gonna come for us,"
Wow.
and I'm like,
Wow.
"Dad, you're like 90." He's like, "They're gonna kill us."
Right.
He's like, "Sonia," my mom. He's like, "Sonia, tell him don't write it. It's such a bad idea." He wouldn't read the drafts.
Wow.
He wouldn't had anything to do. He's yelling at me every night. I mean, it was weird.
That's really brave of you to be the innovator and breaking that.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well
thank
done.
you. Oh, thanks
Yeah.
you.
Well done.
Oh, that was
didn't
thank
know
you.
that.
It was
done.
nervous a little because I kind of thought he would love it. Like
Right,
why wouldn't
right,
you?
right, exactly.
But he said
That's cool.
he goes, if you ever want to kill your career at such a young age, discuss race.
I mean, again,
that was his philosophy.
yeah, but
to
that's a
me.
sign
That
of the
was the
times.
time.
That's probably
But that
what
was
he-
a sign of his
That
time.
was
Wow.
the time.
But I'm just saying, this is in my ear, like, guys. It's like
Right.
I'm like, Dad, I gotta like put you on
Wow.
the do not call list. Like, geez.
I don't know. In contrast, when coming from Detroit, they kind of didn't have a concept of a Karl Lagerfeld. You know what I mean? But the fact that I remember being there and literally when I was opening in each market, when I went to Milan or I would go to the Eiffel Tower, I would call my mom. I'm like, Mom, I guess where I am because it's a moment that they wouldn't have experienced, and I'm only there because of them. You know what I mean? So it's kind of the opposite with me because to me it was about opening to them and letting them know and facilitating it and telling them of possibility.
Question for you both. What impact do you think that military-inspired fashion has had on this explosion of military-inspired fashion today has resulted from performance wear on the front lines?
I think that, when you think of collections from YSL to Karl Lagerfeld to even Tommy, the influence has been limited to camouflage. When you think of camouflage in the military, the functionality of it is basically you're in the jungle and you want to be camouflaged. If you're in the sand, you want sand camouflage. So again, it's funny with fashion, it meets and it intersects as fashion and functionality, and is it something that's novelty or is it something that's really going to be a part of it? And I think that, just like art, it's an excerpt of reality that the military influence is the same thing. Real life military influence is taken in fashion from the Marine Corps, the military. It's just an excerpt of reality that's taken as an art moment. Yeah.
I would say the aviator glasses, that was something that was designed for
It's functional.
pilots.
Functional.
And after World War II, the aviator glasses really became a, functional look and feel. And then also the bomber jacket,
jackets, yeah.
which the Tuskegee Airmen
Right,
wore,
right.
they became pretty regulated. And they used to have like a really cool onesie flight suit.
A onesie flight suit.
Yeah, it kind of looks like a
Yes, with the zipper in the front, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a technical name, but just some dude in the panel, he's a onesie flight suit. Quanos is like, skew number 643.
Yes, exactly.
I'm like, all right, Quanos, I know. But I just wanted to say, I think that, and also the timepiece
Functional
was
again,
created.
functional.
They used to have stopwatches, and then
Yeah,
they
the
created the
functionality
wristwatch.
versus the fashion.
Yeah, and that was like working at Cartier or Van Cleef and Arpels or Vacheron Constantin. They invented the timepiece. There's a lot of history, particularly in Europe and luxury, around this functionality and these styles that they implement. So I would say those three things.
And do you feel, both of you, do you feel as though you have achieved your idea of legacy based on where you are today, or where do you see that journey taking you as you move forward?
I mean, I think, again, for me, it's really, it's like sort of Back to the Future, where I'm leaning into the first place that I was, which is the veteran space, the military space, because I see, it's always about in life, you have to kind of go where you've never been before. And you know what I mean? You kind of have to push those boundaries and ask the questions you are afraid to ask and go those places where you have not been before. And for me, there's a lot of room, with the skill set and the passion and everything that I've learned to help and support veterans, And the PR and marketing now that I'm doing is turning more into non-for-profit, politically, objective or ideology sort of projects. And I think that's going to be important for me to lean into, because to me, fashion isn't the way it was before,
Fashion
and
has
I
evolved.
haven't enough experience to affect different areas and different, industries other than just fashion. So
I have a question.
I do want to write a book, though.
Question from the audience.
Okay.
Good.
I do want to write a book.
I'm glad you just brought that up, Quanos, because I wanted to ask all three of you have incredible backgrounds related to marketing, and I wondered what sort of advice you would give to students today about how they might see the fashion world now, because you were, all of you, very much at the center of it and coming up in it 10, 20 odd years ago. So you now have the benefit of being able to be living in it now, but also looking back.
Thank you, Constance. That's a great question. I think for me, fashion has evolved so much and it has shifted. So from our time when we were building and developing, creating, and we could just kind of forge a new path very easily. There were things that if you wanted to do it, yes, there was some red tape, but we just kind of were the rebels, I guess.
Right.
We were told no, and it was, just do it and apologize later. In fact, at that time, it was just do it and don't even apologize. And then, oh, look, it was successful. And you could grow from that. Today, you have to navigate that path a lot more carefully, and you have to tread a lot lighter. So follow your path and definitely explore who you are, and don't be afraid to show your creative side, but do so knowing that you have to be a little more cautious than I think we had to be.
I would say, I think there's two things I would say. The first advice is we are in a really unknown with visibility. And corporations are essentially weaponizing visibility for their staff. So, for instance, it's cute that you have 5,000 followers. It's hilarious that you have 15. When you get 20, now you have too many people. So the companies, and it's in Europe, but it's really happening here too, is there's a backlash for weaponizing visibility. So basically, you're trying to build an outside of the office presence and have different aspects of your life. And every time you do that, corporations are like, they're not taking a job seriously. They have other interests. It is very, very tricky right now. It'll work itself out. But when we got hired and we had social media, companies used to love it, and then they were like, oh, can you bring more people? Can you lean into it? Now your following is too big and you represent them. So there's a risk factor that all the consultants and the compliance and the risk management people tell you about. When you live in Switzerland, if you post something on LinkedIn, because LinkedIn uses your corporation's trademark, it is held in a queue. And there is a approval manager that looks at every single thing and could say no and not post it. Now, what people aren't really talking about in America enough, but I want everybody here to kind of watch this, is they have something in Europe called the GDPR, which is essentially a whole privacy situation. But you can't disclose race, you can't disclose, LGBT or, sexual orientation. Transgender is considered a mental health condition in 185 of the 195 countries in the world, because I had to deal with it when an employee want to go under the process of transitioning. In 185 of the 195 countries in the world, that is considered a mental health disorder, and they have to go to either conversion or get stamped mentally unstable. This is not something the company is doing. This is done by the country. So one thing is that, but look out for this EEOC, which is the Equal Opportunity Commission. They just got enough people to do votes. They just got quorum. This is the thing I want people to watch for. With the swipe of one pen, which I believe will happen, they can remove all race from all applications, just like they have in Europe. So if you go for a job in Japan, it says Japan, foreigner. When you go to a job in America, it's like Hispanic, Asian mix, two more races, like all these things. What I'm saying is when companies don't have to do that, the question will be, how will this conversation evolve? If I don't have to be transparent about anything, that would be one thing. And the second thing is, when I moved to Europe, the first day I got there, they go, Doug, everybody here knows America has 50 states. Do you know how many countries are in Europe? Does anybody here know how many countries are in Europe? 44. And then they said, do you know how many countries are in the EU? 27. I didn't know the answer. Then they said, do you know how many countries are in the world? I didn't know the answer. It's 195. They sent me for 6 months etiquette school, English as a second language school, so I could understand the pace and the words that each country uses when they learn English. I had to go to geography school, and I had to name all 195 countries on a map that was blank, and graduate etiquette school and graduate ESL school before I could get on a train to talk to anybody who worked at the company. We are not teaching people here the information to be successful in the industries we desire to work in. If you want to work in luxury, this is basically minimum. Because if you want to graduate most countries, you have to take the test in 2 languages. English and German, English and French, Swiss and English.
But the U.S. is a global business language. I mean, English is. I'm
So
sorry.
going back to strategy and culture, he's a strategist, and that is true. And I'm just saying, I'm trying to get people in with the least amount of friction.
But,
But
you
he
know-
is also correct. It's hard to say because both are true at the same time. But
But
if you're asking me for a skill,
most citizens of other countries speak multiple languages,
Including
too.
English, yeah.
Including
English is becoming the language
but
of business,
In
but-
the United States, we don't really emphasize the importance of needing to be
I agree. Absolutely agree.
bilingual, trilingual, et cetera,
I
et cetera.
absolutely agree.
Like in Finland alone, the average person speaks a minimum of 4 languages, and that's considered lowbrow. When I worked at Nokia, which is based in Finland, my boss spoke 7 languages fluently. And a lot of those people there will tend to look down on you if you do not speak a multitude of languages fluently. So to Doug's, I understand your point, Kwana, so I'm not disagreeing, but to Doug's point, this
Well,
is
it's a
very real.
sophistication sort of level because, you know, where we would say here is races, there is more classes. And part of
Yes.
having class is understanding more than one language. It's a
Absolutely,
different
yes.
sort of sensibility, but I actually agree. I think for me, what would be important for people is technology. You know, we're moving into a stage where AI is going to be very important. So keeping up, you know, as people coming up through the ranks of your eye on technology, the innovations, how are they used, and how are they used in reference to what you're doing, you're deciding to do. The second area would be in reference to the many people in here who said they had some sort of military affiliation. I think what's important is to lean into the values that come from military affiliation, the teamwork, the loyalty, the integrity, and those qualities and those aspects and those values are going to be something that's universal, that everybody, you're going to stand out because you have those values, especially in a corporate sort of capitalistic society.
I would like to say for the resumes of military individuals that apply, triple down on the skills on the resume, and the experience is important, but in the public sector, in the private sector, the qualifications and the words and the titles are very different on a resume, but the skills are what every company needs. You need someone on top. Like he just said, I don't want to be creative. I want to get the job done. I'm like, never heard that. Everybody's like, I have an idea. Yeah, no, I need him to not have an idea. Just pull the thing on but in the military, because it's based on organization and, all those qualities, I would lean in definitely more to the skill sets, because I think a lot of veterans do not realize the value of those skills in a private sector environment. I want to say one thing about AI. When I wrote my book, Simon & Schuster said I had to sign a form that said I would never use AI. I had to use a whole form. This is in 2021. You got to write a form. Doug, you got to you can't do that. Can't use AI. I'm like, what am I like? I'm on trial. I just got my second book deal. I had to write a form on how I was going to use AI. So I write for Forbes magazine. If anybody, Anitzi or Constance or anybody, if anybody has a story you ever want me to cover, but I write for Forbes on their, diversity, leadership, different categories. We had a meeting 2 weeks ago. We are now being asked to share how we are using AI, when 1 year ago we had a form
very important
to sign that
very
said we cannot use AI. So
much has
everybody
evolved.
needs to figure out how to create an AI fingerprint, which is essentially a system of AI tools that you use to process a thought from here to giving it into your manager or whatever the case may be. Because now people say, well, if you didn't use it, is it really good? Did you fact check it? How's your sentence structure? What's the language structure?
Absolutely.
So this is a big change.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah,
I
I
know
have
we
a question. Actually, I have two. One of them is, so you guys discussed about how, the United States does not prepare us, to become successful internationally. So what can we do that doesn't have to involve the education system, that we have to rely on it for us to become, very successful in the industry we're going to? And my second one is, was you coming to New York strategic? Because there's 50 states. So I was why did you choose New York?
I'll answer that question first. Absolutely, because New York at that time, that's where you went to become a rebel and learn and be outside the box, and just, a center of creativity and finance and fashion and art and communications. This is where you came. So for me, after the Marine Corps, it was like, where do I go in the United States was New York. But after New York, when it was time, it's like, okay, where do I go? Europe. I think the interesting part was about more coming back. When I came back from, being in Europe, and overseeing so many different markets and understanding the culture, where do you go? Miami Beach,
I'm gonna hang out over there. I don't know what's going on.
And chill, you know what I mean? And work, do your own thing.
Pour
'cause you got-
the drink. Mimosa cart. I want to just say, I think you should travel.
Absolutely.
Is number one.
Absolutely.
Like, stamp
much
the
as possible.
passport.
Yeah.
Go to different countries. Lived
There's so much
experience.
Immerse yourself in the culture.
You can't know unless you go. Like, yes, you could look on the internet, and I would also think about the etiquette school, understanding geography, but I think that traveling would be number one.
I have a question for you, Doug. So when you worked for Andy Hilfiger and Tommy Hilfiger, you were actually involved with the music aspect department. How did music change, and how did it actually impact the fashion industry, and where do you see it going now as far as the music is concerned, along with the fashion?
I think the one, and Quanos he's already going to disagree, but I just think the one thing that was the hardest about the fashion music at the time we were doing this was if you did fashion, you really couldn't be a legitimate singer. And if you were a legitimate singer, you were kind of like fake fashion. Like, it's evolved since then, but at the time, it was like, remember when Beyonce launched True Star and then nobody wanted it?
Right. Everybody, I think the thing is, everybody expected you to be a brand and be, you know, you could do all crossover into all things, but that wasn't necessarily true. And I think things like Vibe magazine and creating that that level of culture, new culture, is what kind of switched it. Because again, we were at a time where all that stuff had just come out.
It was new at the time.
Remember we had the guy from Tribe Called Quest on the cover with the jeans that we had, embellished. How revolutionary is that? And they do it. Yeah, it's something different now. I think that the saying that people are everything, like Beyonce can be fragrance and she can have her own clothing line. I don't think that necessarily.
It doesn't
works.
work. And there's a saying. I'm friends with Ebony Williams from Real Housewives, but we were friends for so many years before that. And when she was going to her career, she would always go in the meetings, and be like, I could do this, and then she called me one day, goes, Doug, we go to lunch. She goes, Doug, you know what I've come to a conclusion? I said, what? She goes, the narrower you are, the wider your reach. And I always thought about that, and I always think about it when I see someone who's having trouble getting a promotion or you doing their career. You doing all these things sounds good, multi-hyphenate, but in reality, if you are working for someone else and you are trying to get up the food chain, the narrower you are, the wider your reach. Now, the challenge with that is, historically, people that grow up with money do one thing since you're 2 years old. Like, Johnny's going to do this. But if you grow up and you don't have money, or if you're, culturally, from another country, your mom will say, you better sew, cook, shoot the hoops, mow the lawn. They tell you are raised to be horizontal. But as you get up the company, they want you to be vertical. And when you get to the top, there's a saying that there's not enough air for everybody's straw.
Well, yeah, and also
so
people,
it's like you have to. So I think being
Find your
narrow.
niche. Yeah.
also
find your
people
niche.
can feel at a certain point authenticity. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can feel like this person keeping it real or not. That's one point. And then I just think at the end of the day, you are what you are. And you can't be something that you're not, and you can smell it, And I think it's, people can feel things and people connect to things, and that's kind of the important part that you cannot, disregard. People are going to connect and they're going to plug into it, and they're going to know, that person is fronting. You know what I mean?
And also, how you make money and what you do for your career is starting to become two separate things. So, if you make money off owning Airbnbs or investing in the stock market, you're going to make more money doing that than your career. Well, when we grew up, it was like you got to get a career because that's how you're going to earn money. But nowadays, you can earn way more money not doing these things. And with AI, that's going to permeate. But the challenge is going to be, how can the other people get in because they can't make money doing it? Like when I wrote my book, the young man was like, oh my God, I want to be an author. But Anitzi told me, authors don't make money. That's correct, Anitzi. Authors do not make money. But when you write your book, they go, when you make money, if you can get 3 books. First book proves you could sell. Second book proves the formula. Third book closes your contract. Fourth book, you become a staff, basically a brand writer, and you write a book every other year, and then you get a long-term deal.
That's strategy.
But you got to get you got to get 3 books first, and to do that, you have to have
There you
other
go.
monies. So
There you
I'm
go.
just
Thank you,
saying.
guys.
Both.
Thank you.
Quanos, get that strategy out of here. Oh, the bad
Go
knee.
ahead. What's your
The
question?
bad knee.
Hi. Hi. So my name is Kaya.
Hey, Kaya.
Hi. Going back to what you were saying, Quanos, I feel like it was really inspiring about what you were saying about like showing up for yourself and the point about things coming to you from the universe just for being authentic and genuine. And just the fact like good things happen to people who are good inside, you know what I'm saying? I felt that, but I feel like what's another time where you felt like your character got you into places where maybe if otherwise that would have been presented to you? And also another question I have is if you're someone who doesn't know about being in the military like me, like what's a common misconception or rumor about like being in a service?
Okay, I'll start with the first one last. I think a common misconception is that you're a leader. Because, I think in life, you have lead singers and just naturally you have backup singers. Everybody's not a lead singer. I think you can learn skills and you can develop yourself. But again, I think, there's something, given from the universe or touched on your head. It's a gift. It's a talent to be able to lead and understand and empathize with people and corral people together because that's leadership. Leadership
That's
isn't just a
true.
word. So I think that would be the answer to the first question. What was the second one? I'm sorry.
What's another time where you got like an opportunity for yourself, like just being genuine to who you are? Besides like
I think I'll go into what I'm doing now because it's very important. Because right now I've been, after doing what we do, there comes a certain point where you kind of can't do 9 to 5, or you can't do what you said, JOB.
Yeah,
It's
no
sorta
just
like-
over brokes, guys.
It's more of your skill set is such a level that people are not trying to hire you because they think that you're going to cost this much.
That's
but again,
very true.
You would go crazy sitting at a desk 9 to 5. So what you have to do is to fit into and develop your own lane,
Yes.
your own niche. And the one that I'm moving into now is to being a special projects guy, which basically people are hiring me to do everything from a social media campaign to launch a book to open a store. Right now I'm working for the woman who ran the Clinton Foundation. So she was the forward party for the Clinton Foundation, and she's working on projects now. And now, even though she's not super active because the Democrats aren't in, there are a lot of things that I can bring to her from my skill set, like leadership, setting her up her office, leadership in all the press contacts that I've had. We just did this event for a non-for-profit, and it was Cheryl Teigen, it was Gayle King, and I was able to get press from the contacts that I knew before for the event for her. So it's like you create your own niche of projects, and I think just by being who I was, she came to me. Also, from working in fashion this year, someone who knew of me just called me and said, "Hey, we need you to support our dinner," and it ended up being the Kering dinner, which Kering owns Gucci, Chloe, etc., and it's Arnault, and it's Selma Hayek, her husband. And then there is Demi Moore there. There's Diane von Furstenberg there. There's Julianne Moore. And I'm the person that's at the level where, hey, you're assigned to Diane von Furstenberg, and I have to go to her apartment, get her from her apartment through the press line to the cocktail hour, to the photo op, to the dinner table. And it's just like, they hired me because there's no one else that can get that and make it happen. And the example of that was, I'm standing next to her, and she says to me, "Glass of wine." And I'm like, okay, well, I don't run and get it, So I walk up to the kid who's standing there, it's a waiter. I said, "You've been chosen to get a glass of wine for Diane von Furstenberg." He's like, "Red or white?" I'm like, "Red, make it a heavy pour." And he came right back, and I was like, "Thank you," and I handed it to her. So someone that would know and have the skill set to make that happen, to solve that problem, you have to create, at a certain point, your own lane.
I want to piggyback on
That's
that.
very
because-
important, everybody.
Because that is so absolutely true. And a lot of that is reputation, right? You build your reputation in this business. You work your bum off, I think I could say that safely. You work very, very hard to set yourself up and establish yourself as the professional you are, and then your reputation precedes you. And the reason I'm bringing that up and piggybacking off of your point is because I've had students ask me kind of that question a lot, and this is a great opportunity to share that when you're doing that, you establish yourself such that opportunities, as you said, find you. And as you were talking, I was thinking about the fact that I've had a lot of opportunities and I've been very, very lucky, very blessed. But at the same time, we've all worked, all of us collectively in this room have worked in a lot of spaces and had opportunities. And the ones that I think I've enjoyed the most were the ones that found me. Opportunities that I found, I'm working for somebody. And it's just very different than the way I feel
Absolutely.
about the ones that found
Absolutely.
me.
That,
because
that's
it's
that's
destined
important.
for you.
That's important. The ones that find you are definitely better than the ones that you find. I will say to the music question to this gentleman, and okay, Andy Hilfiger. We had a partnership with Quincy Jones, and when I first met Quincy Jones, he used to have this thing. He would say, "Doug, is this like your Karl Lagerfeld impression?"
No,
Doug.
I don't think so. Karl Lagerfeld was very specific.
Yeah. Okay.
Very.
He would say, Doug, your reputation is the only thing that precedes you when you walk into a room. 8 out of every 10 decisions you're going to make, you're not in the room, your reputation is. He's like, when you get a house, your credit score is your reputation. When you get a credit card, and he was going on and on that, like, before you get a job, like, your reputation is the only thing that precedes you in a room. I teach reputation management at Stanford University, Graduate School of Business. I've taught it for the last 7 years. And I just want to share with everybody, it is one of the most attended classes at Stanford. It is a class that there was hesitation in the beginning with our host professor, because there's a full host professor that I work with. And they didn't want to do it because they thought it was fluffy and it wasn't serious. But the reality of the situation is now it's become the most important thing. I tell everybody, go to Google in a private browser and just type in your name and hit enter. That is what every single person sees before you walk in.
Oh my goodness. Okay, let me do that. Okay.
And I just want to say about building your own lane. I was contacted in June. I was out in Cannes, and iHeartMedia came up to me and asked me if I wanted to make a podcast to help people pivot their careers because of what they had heard about me and how I help people build their reputation. And in January, I have a podcast produced by Charlemagne the God on iHeart. I got a studio opening up in my on 55th Street in the iHeart headquarters for a career pivot podcast. So all could come and ask the questions and do it on the air. And it's called a DM Me with Doug Melville, and I'm going to take DMs and I'm going to answer them and do the whole thing. And play on words. Okay, all right. But I was nervous to do it because the second I do that, now visibility is weaponized.
Well, you better get into it.
So
Get into
you
it.
got to do it. Like he's saying, find the lane.
Get into it.
Do it. All right, I think, is that all of us?
No, we have.
Oh, we have one more. Sorry.
This one's for you, Doug. I would like to circle back to AI. So, given that our new mayor-elect Mondami and his big political supporter Bernie Sanders are highly against AI, and New York and LA are known to have a global influence, do you think AI is actually going to be a reverse effect, as you're saying with Forbes? Even though Forbes is based in Jersey City, but other lead companies like JP Morgan.
No, everybody wants you to use AI, generally speaking, companies. So if you go to McKinsey or, Boston Consulting or one of these big companies, they have something called SWP, which is Strategic Workforce Planning. That is code name for AI, and they just don't want to say it because people are starting to get anxiety. So when HR comes to you and goes, hey, Nitzy, we're working on a strategic workforce planning project, that means how many times can we cut someone and replace them with AI? There's one company I know that shall remain nameless because they don't like to talk about it, that has duplicated every single employee. This is a real company everybody knows, has duplicated every single employee, taken every transcript of every Teams meeting they've ever had, everything about them on the internet, and has made clones for all their 100,000 employees. I have a friend of mine who works there. She went on vacation. I saw her in August. She goes on vacation. Her manager says, "Do you care if the AI takes over for you?" And she goes, "What is that?" For 10 days, the AI answered her emails, joined Zoom calls, Teams calls. Now, she got to approve it, but she didn't know that all the things we're doing at work are now being transcribed, thrown into a model to make AI agents of you. Now, the way the rule's going in corporations now is if 65% of your job can be done through AI, there's no more job for you. Now, what could AI do? Well, it can do more every day. So, just know that this is a real thing. Every company in the world, the biggest expense is headcount. AI doesn't need insurance. AI doesn't need, a desk, a computer. It doesn't complain.
No vacation
And that's why I
time,
mentioned
no
No
sick time.
vacation. I mean, this AI thing is serious.
Very
Now, one
important.
last thing about AI. The United States, if you take all K through 12, spent around $970 billion on education last year. In 2023, that was the last year. In 2025, 1.1 trillion was invested in AI. So there is more money being invested to educate computers than educate people. Now, you could say it's a trend, what difference does it make? Or you could say this is something we should really be paying attention to, because if all the resources of the biggest people are going to computers, it is our responsibility not only to know how to use them, but to be aware that that's another competitive person in our job hunt. Oh, thanks, Carlos. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like if 65%.
Yeah, 65% is the number. When 65% of your job can be done by AI, your last day is Friday.
Yeah, because then why do they
I'm
need
like
you?
AI, but like I didn't even think about it that way.
Yeah, and don't worry, there are people that are looking at everything,
Thank you.
Hey, how you doing? It's not really a question, sorry, but I just want to build upon the military transition from military to fashion. I'm actually in the Army National Guard. I'm still serving, and I'm in.
Thank you for your
fashion-
service.
Thank you. I'm in a fashion design major here at FIT, and I feel like a really big transition is meticulous, like being meticulous, because it's about the small details. I mean, like in fashion design, any small detail that's off could mess up the whole draping or measurements of the dress, and you have to start over. It's like in the military, any coordinate that's off, you can mess up the whole mission. And you can kill your comrades. You can mess up the whole mission. So definitely attention to detail is really important, and just being diligent. Because in the military, like you go in for work and you don't know when you're getting off. You don't know when you're getting off. You know what I'm saying?
That's true.
It's early mornings, early nights. It's really just being there and just being there because that's what you have to do. You know what I'm saying? You're serving. And when you're in fashion, speaking about me, I'm serving myself. I'm doing this because I have something to do in this world. And so.
Well done. Well done. Thank you for that. Absolutely.
I want to thank you for
Make sure
saying
you two
that.
connect before he leaves.
Is there another one?
Was there one more? Oh, there's a few more. Oh, boy.
What should we do? Because we may have to. Okay.
I mean, if you're willing to stay, we're
it's
willing
5
to
past
answer.
8. I have to leave soon, so not negative. I'm going to Zero Bond for another Veterans Day party. If anybody wants to go hang out.
Okay. Thank you.
Buenas noches.
Buenas noches.
An immigrant from the Caribbean,
Yes.
ancestor from Africa. but we don't count. I don't know, I'm not a veteran, but I've been getting the email, the invitation to come to this workshop, to this interaction. I have a lot to do. I'm a first-time grandma, taking care of my grandson, but I had to be here. And then I say, no, I'm coming at 6, I come on time, and I leave at 7. I cannot leave.
Oh, thank you.
I got a phone call from my daughter, are you coming home? And I say, do whatever you need to do, go, do, but I need to be here. I need to hear the three of your youth story. And I had to ask you, to all of the young people that are here, that you are in fashion, I think these 3 persons are giving you the clue that you're not gonna get in classroom. I am so happy that I decided to stay here. And both of you are my inspiration. When you talk about your families, doing the research, after all the work I did I am a veteran working in community, right in the forefront of women being, young men being killed, a lot of domestic violence, a lot of drugs, and I've been in the forefront working with those women. And now I changed. I am a fashionista.
Yes.
Yes. It's perfect. God's plan.
And when you talk about your families, right now I am in an exhibition showing that I have been true to myself, saying I am a fashionista, I am a creator, and I made that room. I have made that room to be told. My mother was a fashionista, and not even we, the kids, 5 daughters, we didn't identify her. Now I have her clothing, and I'm showing off my mother clothing, and I call it my mother dresses. I have friends, and I'm showing their dresses. I'm showing the women in my community that were designer, and nobody pay any attention to them or any money. So I am here, and I thank you.
Thank you.
And where they got my information to be here, I don't know from where, but I follow that, and I thank all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for that.
And I know you, we've been in places together.
You know, ma'am, actually, if anybody,
you.
I don't have Quanos' LinkedIn, but if you want to, in all seriousness, LinkedIn, Instagram, please. I don't know
You can
Agent
find
Q.
us all on LinkedIn.
He got different things going on, but if you have just regular LinkedIn and Instagram, I don't know the Agent Q network. I don't got all that, but if you just got a regular, smegular account, you can just go on. But like I said about
Was
the podcast,
there one
I'm
more
here to
quick
help
question
you.
that someone had and we'd promised to take? Okay. Okay.
Ayana.
Thank you.
Last word.
The last question.
Okay. Hello,
Draker
everyone.
Kendrick Lamar. I knew someone would ask.
Okay. First, I just want to make a comment and then a question. I remember we were talking about earlier about kind of like visibility, and I just want to add something. I feel like we need to normalize being seen and accepting being seen and making it more comfortable. Regardless if we do make mistakes, but it's how we approach them and how we strategize them. How do we fix them? That's just my little 2 cents. But my question is, especially now that we're going through a lot of uncertainty, okay. What are ways in which you guys have seen fashion trends reflect current events that have made us feel uncertainty and fear?
I don't really know. Maybe.
I think, when you think of fast fashion, things coming and going fast, things not of having substance, which is the opposite of what's coming up now for everyone, sustainability, longevity, things that are more natural. versus things that are more, that come and go, that are synthetic, that are harmful to the environment. So I think those are the ways that it kind of translates in fashion and creativity. You know, right now, the pendulum always swings to the left, you know. When something goes to the right, it's to the left. And at one point, you know, we were about getting things from Mother Earth, you know, and I think it's going to end up going back to that.
I agree with that, and I would just, to close that point, my sister called me and she's like, Doug, the pasta tariff is going to be 102% on spaghetti. I'm like, okay, gosh, my sister, I love her, but... And I said,
Pasta tariff?
I said, okay, the pasta tariff. And,
Pasta
and
tariff.
they said that everything out of Italy related to pasta was going to be 102 tariff percent. And I said, you know, Lisa, you could call me and everybody could talk about the tariffs, but there will be a point where you just say, I'll just buy the small little dough and make it my. We have commercialized everything, but the pendulum has gone so far. They charge you now for every single thing: surge pricing, daycare, healthcare, you know, cheese, you know, everything. It's like it's going to come back to the point where people are going to make their own clothes, cook at home, make their own pasta. This is not radical, but
Recycling
it has
and
gone so far.
upcycling.
Recycling. I mean, are you seeing that in fashion? Or more people? You know, the secondhand store thing.
Well, that's where you see
fashion
this
file
resurgence of brands like
Sustainability.
Threads Up
Mm-hmm.
and all of these other companies that are helping people to recycle clothing.
Mm-hmm. I remember when
so that
Threads
it's
Up
better
got so many clothes, they had to stop, you know, taking them in because it was almost like too good of a bit. It was like they couldn't even do the demand. So I think that's a great question.
So thank you all for taking the time to be with us here tonight, because you could have chosen to spend your Veterans Day with anybody. So thank you for taking that time and making that choice to be here with us. Thank you for your input, your attention, and thank you for celebrating veterans with us.
And do you mind if you give maybe half what you did at the beginning, because so many of us missed it when you had a moment of silence?
Oh, absolutely. You want to do the moment of silence again?
That's a great one. Thank you. Man.
Okay.
So, moment of silence.
Let's close it out by having a moment of togetherness and silence in reflection and honor of Veterans Day today. Veterans Day was originally called Armistice Day. So I just want to take a moment to recognize the veterans, you know, what they've done, their contributions, and the future of being a veteran. Okay? Everyone wants to stand? Let's take that moment.
Oh, that's good.
Commencing now. With that, we thank you. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
Thank you, everyone. If you'd like to purchase a book, Doug will be at the table in the back, and he'll be there for you to make your purchase and sign the book for you.